Due to all these combinations of cards, and eventually whenever we get the energy system, it might not be the strongest out the gate, but eventually I feel with the energy mechanic and other cards that Divine Z will introduce in now that Lyrical's in main sets, and also powerful generics in the future, we might have the possibility, just maybe, that Herminia can truly be the enduring beauty of the night. How interesting. I said this earlier in the year, and here we are now. Several months later, it seems like I was proven right. Let me explain why Herminia is a meta contender in this day and age of Vanguard. Lyrical Monasterio Sparkling Stars was released in Japan on July 5th, 2024. In this set, all decks have received support to increase the power level of their respective decks, as well as including a new deck and 2 encounters in the form of Coral and Vert. The bosses from Lyrical Set 3 also received dress ups that increased their power and consistency. During the first few weeks of the Japanese metagame, Michu, Kyoka, and Lutetia pulled ahead of the other decks from the set. Kairi also received a significant consistency booster in the form of the Idol line with Senna and Aqua, which also increased her overall play rate. These 4 decks had the most amount of play and tops during the few weeks of the set's release. Following that set was the Destined Showdown, which introduced new Divine skill decks into the meta. While Lyrical's Destined 1 has shown some play since its release, the overall tops from the nation started to become lower. Soldier Doji and Shiranui were very popular as strong decks, as well as adding Night Rose and Harry as valuable options. During the product stream, Bushi announced a ban list towards lowering the power level and consistency of both Soldier Doji and Shiranui. Afterwards, they released a letter explaining the reasonings for the hits and possible decks that should be watched. An interesting section to that letter stated the following ride lines have a usage rate of less than 3%, but have an outstanding win rate. Both Michu and Kairi appeared on this list. However, Enduring Beauty Herminia also showed up on this list. I was quite curious as to why, of all lyrical decks, Herminia is on this list. At the time, I thought Kyoka and Lutetia would have more of a usage rate. I couldn't be more wrong. Like I said before, Kyoka and Lutetia were played more during the release of Sparkling Stars. After the Destined was dropped, the play rate decreased. I have a few theories as to why. Kyoka is a deck that requires a very good pilot to win consistently with. Any mistake can be punished very quickly by your opponent or end up costing you the game. As well as the ceiling of power isn't very high compared to Michu or Lutetia. Also, since there were a lot of Kyoka players during that time, the diversity cut will ruin a lot of players' chances into that top cut. As for Lutetia, the deck suffers from not drawing a lot of cards and being reliant on you hitting your key pieces to close the game. In my opinion, the deck is becoming more gacha in order to win. Regardless, both of their play rates went down. Now, I'll explain why Herminia is rising and why I believe she is a meta contender. With her recent support from Sparkling Stars, her new card, Wish Upon the Water Surface Rarako, has 2 abilities: Act, Rigor Circle, once a turn, cost, Soul Boss 1, and this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of turn. And the second ability is Powerful, Auto, Rigor Circle. When this unit attacks, if your soul has no cards, cost Karmos 1 and Energy Blast 3, draw a card, and this unit gets 10,000 power to the end of turn. This basically solved most of my issues from my last video. There are other cards and attackers in the deck that can hit very high numbers. However, another weakness that Herminia has is the lack of drawing. Your only form of maintaining advantage is if you aggro out your opponent or make the waste cards in their hand that they don't really want to use. Rarako allows you to hit perfect numbers by yourself and draws you a card, even on your grade 2 turn. Going second practically makes this card free on it during turns. With her as a draw engine, powerful Rigor Swing, and alternate to Riley on turns where you don't have her, she allows the deck to do well going first or second. Not many decks in Standard can confidently say that. Another reason is your grade 3 in the Ride deck is the surprise factor. Many decks in Japan have been using Enduring Beauty Herminia in their Ride deck, rather than Coming Beauty Herminia. However, Coming Beauty is not a bad option to play in your Ride deck. Like how we have seen in the past, decks playing different grade 3s in the Ride deck increases their chances to avoid the diversity cut. examples being with Leonor and Youthberg. Depending on the player, both options are viable with their own strengths and weaknesses. Again, a thing many standard decks cannot be said confidently. Most will say, oh, they're just sacking triggers with Riley to win. It's all just luck.
You're crazy!
I have to refute you saying that. With Rabako as a card, the early game of the deck is really strong. Custodia can call powerful units from the deck and add grade 3s to hand. Stolas can call powerful units from your drop zone. Libida bounces a whole column to your hand. Seeing a combination of any of these cards, you can even contest Leonor boards. Even without triggers, your Rigars can hit over 33k. Cards that have built-in shield, a countercharger that makes your front row hit perfect numbers, a self-sufficient restander that can also make perfect numbers, and a Vanguard that restands your rear guards while removing one counterblast. All these cards together makes the deck very solid to play and contest even the best decks, which the deck has many results during the Destined 1 meta, including up until today. The deck is still performing. I won't say too much due to wanting to make a guide on the deck, but Herminia has shown from time to time again she is a meta contender and she should be respected. I recently taught my local Yume no Kesho Cup with Herminia and showed me how strong it really is. I can't really say if the rise of Herminia will continue since we are getting more cards for the Divine decks, but I will say she is her. You better put respect on her name.